Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Public Protection Joint Conference Committee for the year 2022 and the budget year 22-23. I'm Assembly Member Jeffrey Dinowitz. I chair the Assembly Codes Committee, and I'm going to limit my remarks to simply introducing the other Assembly members here. And they are Assemblymember Charles Levine, who chairs our Judiciary Committee, Assemblymember Ken Zebrowski, chair of the Governmental Operations Committee, Assemblymember David Weprin, who chairs the Corrections Committee, and also on are Assemblymember Clyde Vannell, Assemblymember Edward Gibbs. I don't know if I see him, but there's 2 pages of you. Assemblymember Phil Palmisano and Assemblymember Marjorie Burns. And before anybody makes any remarks, let me turn it over to Senator Jamal Bailey.
Thank you, Assemblymember Dinowitz. I am Senator Jamal Bailey, the chair of the Senate Standing Committee on Codes, hailing from the Bronx. So both Codes Committee chairmen are from the Bronx. I think that's a good place to start. And what I will also say is that as we continue this budget, this march towards a completed budget, I thank all the colleagues in government and our incredible staffs on both sides of the aisle and both sides in our respective houses. So I wanted to make sure we put that at the beginning. I'd like to introduce some of the members that are on here. The Senate Standing Committee on Judiciary Chair Brad Hoylman, the chair of the Crime Victims and Corrections Committee, Senator Julia Salazar, and the chair of the Consumer Protection Committee, Senator Kevin Thomas. I do believe that is it. Excuse me, I'm sorry, in the rank from the majority, and the ranking member on the Finance Committee, Senator Tom O'Mara, is here from the Republican minority. And I do believe that is all of the Senate members that we have here. Assemblymember Dinowitz.
Okay, do any of the Assembly members want to make very brief comments before we get into the meeting, the rest of the meeting? I know Assemblyman Palmisano, you wanted to say a few remarks.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Dinowitz, Chairman Bailey. I have a few points I just wanted to touch on behalf of the Assembly Minority Conference. We are disappointed that the One House budgets failed to address the ever-growing issue of crime without any amendments to the bail reform and the One House resolutions. Over the past 2 years, we've seen that the majority seem to be more focused on providing rights to individuals who commit crimes at the expense of crime victims and public safety through limiting cash bail, in most instances, and placing burdensome discovery laws on district attorneys. We've seen these policies coupled with others create an environment that's reversed to decades of low violent crimes. When you see the rising spike in violence in our cities around the state, with shootings in some instances up over 100% in many of our cities. Right now, New York remains the only state in the nation that does not allow judges to consider a defendant's public safety risk when determining pretrial release or conditions. Our conference has positions and policies that can address some of these issues that should be considered as we move forward, whether it's gun violence, supporting law enforcement, or implementing bail and parole reform. The other important issue I want to highlight that's important to my colleagues, as you know, we just recently closed 6 prisons across New York State. That's 10 in the past 2 years. That represents a third of the prison closures over the past decade. But this budget fails to provide any resources to those communities that have been impacted for economic development and reuse and adaptation purposes, which has been done in the past. For whatever reason, it wasn't done here. These I know the majorities and the governor said we save a lot of money with these closures, but we should be reinvesting some of this money back into these communities that have been crushed by these closures, the impact it has on their communities. Also on that same front, so we're urging funding for that in the budgets. Also on the same front, we've seen, just as we see violence on the outside, we're seeing violence inside our correctional facilities. Over the past 6 years, there's been a 55% increase in inmate on staff assaults, creating a lot of dangerous situations for those men and women who work in those situations. But yet we fail to provide the important tools and resources that can help keep our corrections officers and staff and other inmates safe for that measure by introducing, we should be putting in place a secure vendor program and also drug dogs at every correctional facility to be able to guard for the drugs getting into our facilities, because we know the drugs that continue to get found, the contraband continue to spur violence inside our correctional facilities. We should be using some of these resources from these closed facilities. We should be able to, if we can find dollars to invest to provide free tuition and free phone calls for incarcerated individuals, we should be able to find resources to invest in our correctional facilities and staff to help keep them safe. So, and programs like a secure vendor and drug dogs at our correctional facilities will do just that. So these are some of the things we're urging to include as part of the final adopted budget as budget negotiations continue. So thank you to my colleagues for your time, and just want to allowing you to share a few points on these issues as we move forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Palmisano, for those brief remarks. We're not going to get into a debate this minute about that, but I just have to say that I've been racking my brains trying to figure out how New York bail reform caused the huge increase in shootings in Chicago, but I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually. Anyway, does anybody, if nobody else has anything, I'll turn it, Senator, if any of your members have anything to say.
Assemblymember Dinowitz, I align myself with your comments related to bail reform and other pretrial measures, but that's a different conversation for a different day. I'd like to recognize Senator Alessandra Biaggi, the chair of the Senate Standing Chair of the Ethics Committee, and Senator Anthony Palumbo, the ranking member on the Codes Committee, have also joined us. And with that being said, I'd like to open it up to any members of the New York State Senate that would like to offer brief remarks. Seeing and hearing none.
If I may,
Senator O'Mara, followed by Senator Salazar.
Yeah, briefly, without reiterating Assemblyman Palmisano's points, I have concerns over the disparate treatment that we're seeing in this budget proposal between and the criminal justice side of things, between dollars being allocated to the criminal defense side, but not to the prosecution side. The great burdens that discovery reform put on our DA's offices over the last couple of years is still not been taken care of. And we see a proposal here in both houses, one house budgets, of increasing the 18B attorney fees by 100%. And while some increase may be warranted, a 100% increase I'm not sure that that's warranted to that extent. I don't believe that it is, but that accounts for in excess of $200 million on that one item, whereas there's only being allocated to district attorney's offices for this discovery burden of about 45 million. So less than 25% going to assist DA's offices. Now, I understand you want to pay 18B attorneys for the work that they perform, and they deserve it. But prosecutors' offices are likewise having difficulty maintaining salaries to keep good staff in their offices, and that needs to be addressed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator O'Mara. Before we go to Senator Salazar, I would just like to inform the public in relation to the 18B salary increase. 18B attorneys have not had an increase in their hourly rate since 2004. I'm an attorney by trade and not a mathematician, but I would imagine if we look at the cost of inflation and what the cost of services are, if we look at what that would amount to be from 2004 to 2022, I venture to say that that amount of money, which is rightfully needed by prosecutors need money just like defense attorneys need money, and everybody needs money to make sure that the wheels of justice are corrected. But 18B attorneys represent indigent individuals, people who can least afford counsel, and quite frankly can't afford counsel. So I think that an increase, which seems incredible now, is rather modest considering the amount of years that have elapsed since the last adjustment. Just wanted to make that statement for the record.
Well, I would say that over that period of time, it certainly has not been 100% CPI increases, maybe 45% at best. Thank you.
Well, to not have a raise from 2004 to 2022 when you are working for individuals in such complex cases, as you know, Senator O'Mara, being a talented attorney yourself, is a long time without a raise, and you and I can have plenty of conversations and sparring matches offline if we like about this, but I'd like to get to Senator Salazar followed by Senator Palumbo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I will be brief, but I want to thank you for your leadership and thank our Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and Speaker Hasty for their leadership in addressing issues related to our state's criminal legal system and public safety. But additionally, I think that it is a good thing and it is encouraging to see that there's an emphasis on tackling some of these issues that should be tackled outside of the budget at that time, instead of seeking to ambitiously try to address all of the issues with our state's legal system and law enforcement in the context of these budget resolutions and the final budget. I do think that it's very important and it's good to see this $59 million proposal for discovery reform implementation, as well as the $40 million proposed to support community safety and restorative justice grant programs, including especially programs to reduce gun violence. These are really critical investments, and I look forward to seeing them come to fruition and the positive impact that they'll have in our communities. So,
Thank you, Senator Salazar, for your remarks. Senator Palumbo.
Thank you, Chairman. And also, at the risk of not being too repetitive, I just wanted to align myself with the comments of Senator O'Mara and Senator Palmisano. And I do agree with our previous speaker that these policy, and we mentioned this on the floor yesterday, these sorts of policies are not necessarily, are not best done in the budget. Bail reform and discovery reform were creatures of the budget process, but regarding the more policy, the clean slate, I have a very significant concern with the fact that we've once again forgotten victims. The Senate One House now has the clock start with regard to the automatic sealing of misdemeanors after 3 years and felonies after 7 years. The clock starts upon release from custody. So as the example, with the example I used yesterday on the floor, if you're sentenced to 5 to 15 years, the 7 years expires on that felony sentence prior to you being released from parole. Although it does say that, or Senator Krueger did specifically say that, it was if someone's still under the jurisdiction of the parole department, or corrections or probation, that it wouldn't be sealed, but that still doesn't stop the clock. So in that example, if you're given an indeterminate sentence of 7 to 14 years, you're released at 7 on 14, the 14th year and a day within a week or so of you being released, the case is automatically sealed. And I think that forgets about, yes, there is a debt to society that needs to be paid. I think we all agree that it needs to end at some point, but that's too soon. So that's something I have a very significant concern with, in addition to the other items that were mentioned. But Chairman, this is a process. I hope these discussions will continue. I hope we'll consider, even with the New York City mayor and my constituency is begging for, is some judicial discretion, that the final budget sees something along those lines, because we need to do it now. So as a standalone, I don't see it happening before April 1st. I hope that will be considered by this committee. Thanks for the opportunity to make a few comments, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Palumbo. I just say in relation to clean slate, it's an economic justice bill, and anybody that has been able to remain felony free for 14 years, I think has proven the ability to remain a productive member of society that has paid their debt to society while incarceration and while being incarcerated and being post-incarcerated. And quite frankly, statistically, no more likely to commit another crime than another member of the public. But again, Senator Palumbo, you and I can have discussions. We can take this to the Codes Committee, which will be meeting next Monday, and we can have plenty of conversations about that there and in other locations. I just wanted to make sure we that from this perspective that we talk about why these things were advanced in the One House, as opposed to and not disagreeing with your opinion, but letting you know why our majority advanced these things and what our belief systems are.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. I'd just like to introduce Isabel Tripoli, who is the recording secretary for the Assembly.
And I'd like to introduce Emilia Sacco as the recording secretary for the Senate. These are the guidelines for the Public Protection Joint Conference Committee. Jeff?
Jeff, may I just
Yes,
say briefly, I want to refer to two points. One point is a point of personal privilege. Chicago is actually one of my hometowns. The gun crisis, the weapons crisis in Chicago is as a result of its neighboring state, Indiana, being a state in which there are few rules and few regulations with respect to the trafficking of firearms. And I'm hoping the day will come in the not too distant future that both political parties will understand and comprehend that we'll have to work together in order to stem the weapons crisis that is going on throughout the entire United States of America. Now, with respect to the compensation for the assigned counsel attorneys, fact of the matter is that many counties are having a very difficult time finding lawyers who will do this kind of work. And while we do seek to increase hourly compensation, both in and out of court for these attorneys, it's difficult to compare them to assistant district attorneys in terms of compensation. After all, assigned counsel attorneys do not receive governmental assistance in terms of pensions, nor do they receive benefits that assistant district attorneys receive. The reason that we seek to increase these rates is to make sure that the ends of justice are met. That being said, I have nothing further to add at the present time.
well, thank you for those points, Assemblymember Levine, and they're well taken. And of course, the point I was trying to make, and I thought I did, and I know I did, was that while only New York had bail reform, crime is up all over the country. So what's the common denominator? It's not bail reform, it's guns for sure, but it's, in my opinion, the pandemic. But in any case, we can talk about that. Let me just read you a list of agencies to be discussed at this Public Protection Joint Conference Committee. And these agencies include the Office of Indigent Legal Services, the Office of Victim Services, the Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct, Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, Department of Law, Division of Criminal Justice Services, Division of Military and Naval Affairs, Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, and the Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence. Senator Bailey?
Thank you, Senator Dinowitz. The Senate and the Assembly both accept the executive recommendations on the following agencies: the Interest on Lawyers Account, Commission on Judicial Conduct, the Commission on Judicial Nomination, the Division of State Police, the Judicial Screening Committee, the Judiciary, and the State Commission of Correction. Article 7 bills that accompany the budget: PPGG Part D to eliminate the parole supervision fee, and PPGG Part G to suspend the subsidy to the revolving loan fund for cell charge revenue. Senator Dinowitz.
Thank you. So there are a number of major issues that we will need to address at this conference subcommittee, and they include the following: anti-gun violence programs, civil legal services and domestic violence legal services, reentry programs, parental representation, alternative to incarceration, ATI funding, voice communication services in DOCS facilities, and pretrial services. And our members and staff, we will work together over the next several days to try to resolve these differences. Senator Bailey.
I would agree. We've had some spirited debate already, and I think that the conversations will continue throughout the next couple of weeks. Thank you to the incredible staff of the New York State Senate, and we stand at the ready to continue these discussions and negotiate a budget that's great for all New Yorkers.
Okay, and of course the really incredible staff of the New York State Assembly. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, and I look forward to us seeing you at the next meeting, whenever that is.